shops could not pass down that street. So with one shop losing money, it soon took everything else down. So Alan decided to call it quits, sell the house, get out of most of the debt, not all of it, and come to the end of the line, which is Byron Bay. After researching, it's a great lifestyle, clean air, fresh water, good food, great for children to grow up in. So Adam was 5, Ellie was 3, and Bonnie was just 1 when we came to Byron Bay. And we rented a house called Weetellaba on a farm just on the highway. Great big property with avocado orchards and mango orchards. And Alan used to go to the markets and pick up something to bring home to sell. And this is how we made and paid our rent and made our money just getting by. And he bought these 4 big oranges. He called them the Pac-Men. And he sold 3, and the one he'd take to the markets and he'd just drink orange juice, like making it look really good, so everybody else would come and buy some orange juice. He sold that to this fellow called Hans and for $14,000, and it's still in the markets today, and Ellie and I saw it, Byron Markets last Sunday, and Hans has said, that was such a good business. It's provided an income for his whole family for over 20 years. So, after that, he had a humble pie van, which he took to the markets, which we really loved. And then we moved into Sunrise Beach. And in Sunrise Beach, we were so proud because our youngest son was born, a real Byron Bay baby, so good to have. But in Byron Bay, in those days, it was really like it used to be, very alternate. And for me, it was like an alien world. There were the sannyasins wearing orange with the beads, with the Osho. I was really told off for taking antibiotics. It's really bad for you. A play group, one of the ladies would stand on the table and say, throw out all these plastic buckets and bikes and we'll play with feathers and stones. And I was, oh my goodness, where are we? But now as much as Byron Bay is what we all are here today, of course. It's all the light. And then one day, Alan returned from the auctions, and on the back of the tray of his truck were these boxes. And I loved them straight away too. They were golden honey in colour, and they had coddies and passiona and date stamp 53, 64, whatever. And Alan put them all on the driveway and out the front of the house, and he'd sit on a box and just turn the box over in his hand, and the imagination just did not stop. And he thought, I could put a lid on this box. I could make a spud and onion box, or a bread box, or a flower box, a herb box, a toy box, a firewood box, a shoe box, a wine box. It just had started. So he looked around locally, and every town in Australia had a soft drink manufacturer that supplied the town before Coca-Cola and Fanta came. So he got the boxes and he went to the property, is named, and then the property is the closest, next to Belongio Fields, on the closest property to town. And he had 1 employee, and then 2, then 3. He'd do the riverside markets up in Brisbane and take his truck with all the boxes on the old highway. Adam was about 7 at that stage, and Adam has many good memories about the boxes being on the steps at riverside markets and coming home, lying down in his dad's lap, falling asleep. So, where am I then? And so, at the same time, we bought a block of land in Scott Street. And while Alan was doing the markets, he also built our house. Now, I think our house has more history in it than any house in Byron Bay. He won the right to demolish the Ballina Slipway. So all the timbers, all the timber floors in our house, the legs of our tables are the timbers that went down into the water that the boat slipped down on. Rosewood was found. He also has cabin bar timbers from the cabin bar, okay, because we couldn't afford new products, new materials, so we had to go second hand. Has great doors from Grace Brothers. We have sandstone that's from Pyrmont, Woolloomooloo, that's been convict picked. And he found a fellow up in Queensland that had a glass making machine. And he took up little stars, he put it in the sand and drew the sun rising. And they fired that, and that's the glass in the front of the house. And this is his legacy to his children. As the business grew, the wheels just kept turning bigger and bigger and bigger. We rented the factory behind Mitre 10, which was the biggest factory in Byron Bay at that time. And we started electrifying it, electric saws, forklifts. We had 2 pickups by IPEC going out each day to all the gift fair shops. This is in the 1990s, and I was just remembering how wonderful it was in those days when we had those great parades, those New Year's Eve parades where they pull the Hare Krishna float down the main street on the roads. Remember that? It was so good. And the costumes, and it was just such a happy time. And how we had Father Time once on the beach, metres and metres high, and the flames started at the bottom and then worked their way up and then just disappeared into the night sky in flame. They were such good days in Byron Bay. We were able to actually go back and purchase that property that we rented called the property. And this is where a lot of parties and good times happened. Not for me, I wasn't a party person, and I had young children, and I was just managing the business in the office. Alan was creative and did all that work in the factory. But I remember one party where he got a forklift and he picked up this humongous trunk of a tree and he just went over and dropped it on the fire. Now, this is what the parties were like. I don't know if anybody remembers the big boat he had on that property. Off the boat. That's right. So after developing over 200 products and supplying over 2,000 stores right around Australia, I didn't tell you, sorry, can I backtrack? He went all over the eastern side of Australia, from Queensland to South Australia, and he went to every town and went looking for these boxes, and they were just left in sheds. And I find Australians very suspicious if they don't know what you're doing. They want an explanation. So I remember he said he went to this guy and he said, oh, I'm looking for some boxes. And he said, oh, I have a whole shed of them. What do you want to do with them? And he said, oh, I just want to make cottage furniture out of them. And he said, well, I just burned 10,000 of them out the back. And Alan said, well, I would have offered you $1 a box, and he sold them for about 35. So yeah, all these truckloads, these boxes was just piled as high as the telegraph poles, tens and tens and tens of thousands of them.